Welcome back to Rugby Rundown. I'm Gavin.
And I'm Adrian. We are absolutely buzzing to dive into what was a truly monumental, hard-fought, and utterly compelling first Test victory for the British and Irish Lions in Brisbane. What a start to the tour.
It certainly was, Adrian. The Suncorp Stadium delivered on all its promise, and the Lions delivered a win. But it wasn't just a simple victory, was it? We saw a fascinating blend of brute force, physical dominance up front, and then this incredible burst of creative artistry in the back line.
You've hit the nail on the head, Gavin. And that blend has sparked some really intriguing national debates, particularly around the contributions from Scotland's finest. We're going to dissect all of it, from the tactical masterclass to the individual brilliance, and what it all means for the rest of this captivating series. So, settle in, because we've got a lot to get through.
Absolutely, Adrian. And let's set the scene properly, because the build-up to this first Test was just incredible. 12 years of anticipation, all boiling down to that suffocating humidity at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane.
You could almost feel the pressure through the screen, Gavin. And the Lions arrived there after what can only be described as a series of pretty unconvincing warm-up games. They won them, sure, but they were rarely tested against those provincial sides, leaving us all wondering what their true identity actually was.
Exactly. It felt like their character was truly forged in this crucible of a first Test. And facing them were the Wallabies, a team in transition but crucially guided by the incredibly shrewd tactical mind of Joe Schmidt, the former Ireland coach. The Lions camp knew he was a potential leveler, despite his own team's injury woes.
And it certainly played out that way. What we saw ultimately was a potent blend that defined their triumph, that Anglo-Irish muscle and raw power laying the foundation, but then the Scottish artistry providing the real spark. It was a fascinating dynamic to watch unfold.
And what a start it was, Adrian! The Lions truly began that match with a ferocious intensity that genuinely threatened to overwhelm the Wallabies before they even knew what hit them. It was a perfect execution of Farrell's power play strategy.
Absolutely, Gavin. Within the first 10 minutes, the tourists had already established a dominant 10-0 lead, effectively silencing that home crowd and immediately asserting their physical dominance.
The tone was set by those rampaging carries from a truly beefed-up Ellis Genge. The Lions' heavy-duty pack consistently breached the gain line, providing that crucial front foot ball that their playmakers absolutely craved.
And it wasn't just brute force. That physical assault was perfectly complemented by a masterful kicking game, orchestrated beautifully by the halfback pairing of Jamison Gibson-Park and, of course, Finn Russell. They pinned Australia deep in their own territory and ruthlessly punished any errors.
The scoreboard pressure began almost instantly. A first-minute penalty from Russell settled any touring nerves, and then, in the 8th minute, we saw a try of sublime quality from inside center Sione Tuipulotu.
That was a truly fluid move, sparked by a trademark line break and offload from Russell. His vision and execution just carved open the Wallabies' defense, allowing his fellow Scot to score the first Lions Test try for a Scottish player since Alan Tate way back in 1997. What a moment.
And the Lions' attacking intent was so potent, they were unlucky not to be further ahead. Huw Jones had a try disallowed for a double movement, a moment that really underscored the near-total control they exerted in that opening quarter.
And the relentless pressure finally told again just before halftime. After being held up over the line twice, Tom Curry, the flanker, just bulldozed his way through two defenders to score. It was the ultimate reward for that pack's sheer dominance. Russell's conversion sent the Lions into the break with a commanding 17-5 lead, leaving the Wallabies truly reeling. And it felt like a rout was on the cards, Gavin. The second half began much like the first had ended, with the Lions in complete control. Dan Sheehan's try, the result of quick hands and a clinical recycling masterclass, extended the lead to a seemingly unassailable 24-5.
It truly did. But then, what followed was a 20-minute drop-off that I'm sure will give Andy Farrell and his coaching staff significant cause for concern. Whether it was complacency or a subconscious belief that the job was done, the Lions just seemed to take their foot off the gas.
And that lapse allowed the Wallabies, who had looked utterly demoralized, a route right back into the contest. They showed immense spirit, and importantly, they began to find success, particularly at the breakdown where they really started to disrupt the Lions' rhythm.
Indeed, Tries from flanker Carlo Tizzano and scrum half Tate McDermott drastically cut the deficit and completely transformed the atmosphere inside Suncorp Stadium, turning it into a tense and frantic finale. Suddenly, the Lions' wings looked vulnerable, and the momentum had shifted dramatically.
The final whistle, confirming a 27-19 victory, was met with as much relief as celebration from the Lions. While a win is a win, the nature of that Wallabies fightback left Farrell warning his team to beware the wounded Wallabies, giving the hosts a crucial glimmer of hope to carry into the second test.
Now, Adrian, we've talked about the power game, the Anglo-Irish muscle, and the physical dominance, but we absolutely have to talk about the match-winning spark, the creative fire that ultimately proved decisive. It was lit by a historic all-Scottish midfield trio.
You're spot on, Gavin. This combination of Finn Russell at fly half, Sione Tuipulotu at inside center, and Huw Jones at outside center was a first in the long annals of Lions Test history. It was a bold decision from Andy Farrell, a deliberate choice to leverage a pre-existing national and club partnership over other, perhaps more individually lauded options.
And what a vindication it was! The Telegraph Rugby podcast described their performance as excellent. Their innate familiarity brought a tried and tested combination to the famous red jersey, providing exactly the creative cutting edge that the Lions' power game desperately needed.
It really was more than just a simple choice of personnel. It was the triumph of a pre-existing, highly developed attacking system. Tuipulotu himself even admitted that playing alongside his familiar compatriots made the immense occasion feel like we were playing a Scotland game together. It's a powerful argument for Farrell to consider other such cohesive units for the rest of this tour.
Absolutely. Let's break them down individually. Finn Russell, the Scottish maestro, was described as imperious and operating with pure class. From the opening whistle, he was in full command, orchestrating the attack with a masterful blend of tactical control and moments of breathtaking flair. His kicking from hand was instrumental, and his game management has clearly matured, something Lions kicking coach Johnny Sexton has noted. That beautiful floated pass for Tuipulotu's try just encapsulated his performance.
And what a performance from Sione Tuipulotu. For the Australian-born centre, it was a poignant homecoming, and he delivered. He scored that crucial opening try with a perfectly timed run, showcasing why he's one of the most impactful ball-carrying backs in the squad. He combines immense power with a deft passing touch, and his sharp running angles and slick hands consistently troubled the Wallabies. A truly composed and polished performance.
Then there's Huw Jones at outside center. While his midfield partners provided the attacking fireworks, Jones's contribution was no less vital. He had the difficult defensive assignment of marking the dangerous Joseph Aukuso Swally, and he contained Swally for the most part. With ball in hand, he looked a threat and was desperately unlucky to have that try chalked off for a marginal double movement call. He earned his spot through a series of impressive warm-up displays.
This selection, Gavin, was also a significant personal victory for Andy Farrell's coaching philosophy. By choosing this Scottish combination, he went against the perception that he might favor the Irish players he works with year-round. It demonstrated pragmatism and a willingness to select on form and synergy, not just nationality. Their subsequent success validates that leap of faith.
So, the Scottish midfield definitely made their mark, Adrian, but their influence extends beyond just that central axis, doesn't it? There's been a wider thistle and the lion impact across the squad.
Absolutely, Gavin. And some of the most fascinating insights come from the unlikeliest places. Take the front row, for example. Loosehead prop Pierre Schoeman, who's had quite the journey from South Africa to Scotland and now a Lions jersey, revealed a unique culture within the pack.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, the migrating bison group.
That's right. He said the 6 props on tour have formed this incredibly tight-knit group, complete with secret nightly meetings and post-training tea rituals. It just exemplifies how these fierce positional rivals forge powerful bonds on a Lions tour. Schoeman called the competition the healthiest he's ever experienced, with them constantly sharing knowledge and pushing each other.
It's a club within a club, as they say, vital not just for morale on a long tour, but for that on-field cohesion, especially in the brutal theater of the scrum. And it's a stark reminder of the attritional nature of these campaigns when you think of fellow Scott Xander Fagerson's tour-ending calf injury. That collective strength becomes even more crucial.
Moving from the tight forwards to the wide men, the first test selection also threw up some major questions in the back three. where Scottish players are central to the debate for future tests.
Indeed, Blair Kinghorn, for instance. He was widely viewed as the first-choice fullback before the series, and his return from a knee injury for the midweek game is hugely significant. Many analysts believe his superior size, aerial ability, and attacking spark offer a greater threat than Ireland's Hugo Keenan, who had a hit-and-miss first test and was at fault for Australia's opening try.
And then we have Duhan van der Merwe. He presents a classic tactical dilemma, doesn't he? On his day, he's undoubtedly one of the world's best finishers, a wrecking ball of a player with immense power and a proven try-scoring record.
But his form on this tour has been questioned, Adrian, described as sluggish in some reports, and his defensive positioning has long been a point of criticism. Farrell opted for a more balanced wing pairing in the first test, starting Tommy Freeman and James Lowe ahead of him, including van der Merwe remains a high-risk, high-reward strategy, trading defensive solidity for that explosive, game-breaking potential. It's a tough call for the coaches. Well, Adrian, the success of that Scottish midfield in Brisbane, especially given their pre-existing synergy, has inevitably led to a bit of what-if speculation. What if Andy Farrell had leaned even more heavily into the Scottish contingent?
It's a fascinating thought experiment, Gavin. Imagine a hypothetical all-Scottish backline. Blair Kinghorn at fullback, Duhan van der Merwe and Darcy Graham on the wings, with Tuipulotu and Jones in the centers, Finn Russell at 10, and Ben White at scrum half.
On paper, that would be a formidable attacking unit, wouldn't it? The upside would be unparalleled cohesion and creative flair. That pre-existing understanding between these players, honed over countless matches for Scotland, could produce a devastatingly fast and unpredictable brand of rugby.
And Kinghorn's ability to act as a second playmaker from fullback would just add another layer to an already multifaceted attack. But, as you said, there's always a flip side. Such a selection wouldn't be without significant risks.
Exactly. Critics would rightly point to potential defensive frailties, particularly in the cases of Kinghorn and van der Merwe, whose attacking prowess is sometimes seen to come at the cost of defensive reliability.
And then there's the broader, more sensitive debate, Gavin. The significant presence of players born outside the British Isles, like the South African-born Showman and van der Merwe, or the Australian-born Tuipulotu, fuels a recurring discussion among some supporters about the very identity of the Lions.
It harks back to the Geography 6 controversy from the 2017 tour, doesn't it? It's a tension that fuels criticism that the Lions are becoming less authentic by potentially straying from the best of the British Isles ethos.
Absolutely. It intersects with a deeper sociological question about what the Lions represent in the 21st century. Is it a team representing the geographical British Isles, or a team representing the four national unions, who are free to select any player qualified under World Rugby's rules? This speculation about more Scots isn't just a tactical debate, it's a proxy for a larger conversation about tradition, identity, and the future of this unique sporting entity.
And speaking of that larger conversation, Adrian, this entire debate about selection and identity is set against the backdrop of a rapidly changing global rugby calendar.
Absolutely, Gavin. The rise of Scottish influence, the immense commercial pressures on the sport, and an increasingly congested schedule are all creating a period of potential evolution for the Lions concept itself.
We're already hearing discussions about future tours to non-traditional destinations, perhaps even like France. That would be a radical departure from the norm, but potentially thrilling, wouldn't it?
It certainly would. And the very nature of squad selection in a globalized game, with all its eligibility debates and logistical challenges, ensures that the Lions of the future may well look very different from those of the past. It's an ongoing dynamic that's only going to intensify. And so, as we wrap up today's Rugby Rundown, it's clear the Lions' victory in Brisbane was truly a triumph of fusion.
Absolutely, Adrian. It was forged in the heat of that forward battle, with the pack dominated by English and Irish power laying down a platform of sheer physicality.
But the win, the real spark, came from the creative genius of that all-Scottish midfield. They played with a cohesion and flair that simply defied the immense pressure of a Lions test match. Their performance wasn't just match-winning, it's provided Andy Farrell with a compelling alternative blueprint for success.
And now, as the tour rolls on to the vast expanse of the Melbourne Cricket Ground for the second test, the challenge is only going to intensify.
You can bet a wounded Wallabies side, likely bolstered by the return of formidable forwards like Will Skelton and Rob Valentini, will be a much tougher proposition. The key question for the rest of this series isn't just if the Lions can win, but which blueprint they will choose to follow to claim their place in history down under. Will it be the power game, the synergy game, or a perfect blend of both? That's what makes this series so captivating.
What a series this is shaping up to be. We're already buzzing for Melbourne.
Couldn't agree more, Gavin. And that brings us to the end of this episode of Rugby Rundown. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining us for this deep dive into the Lions' first Test victory.
We love hearing your thoughts, so feel free to reach out with your predictions and takes on the series so far. We'll be back soon with more in-depth analysis as the Lions tour progresses.
For now, from Gavin and myself, Adrian, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Rugby Rundown.